So it's 2001. Helen and I both turn up to Nottingham Business School to do quite a weird and wonderful degree, and I think actually still by today's standards it would be quite unusual. You turned up, and in year one you did loads of business studies topics, so nothing too unusual there, at the same time as running your own startup. There was about 20 of us on this course. Being honest, it was sort of like a really early cringe version of The Apprentice.
You remember it so differently to me.
I know I do. That's how I remember it.
I thought it was brilliant, and it was a great way to meet loads of new people, and it was really exciting and fun.
Yeah, when I think back to it, I honestly can't understand how I chose to do that course. So for my A-levels, I did philosophy, sociology, English literature, and I was going to go and study philosophy. I think I had a real last-minute panic in my last year of school, thinking I'm going to do philosophy and then I'm never going to get a job, which is definitely not true. And so then I went hyper vocational and thought, oh my god, I'm going to do business studies because someone will then give me a job, and turned up to this course of people who were kind of uber competitive with laminated CVs.
I didn't have a laminated CV.
No, you didn't. But we're all definitely like Richard Branson wannabes.
I was not a Richard Branson wannabe. I think, if you've ever seen the programme The Affair, when two people they're in the same situation but the different experiences, my recollection of this is very different. But we met there,
we did,
both experiencing different versions of the same reality.
Yeah.
And also probably not the best of friends during the time either.
No. So it wasn't like Helen and I met and we were immediately clicked. I think Helen and I got really different interests. I'm much more introverted, Helen's much more extroverted. She was loving life at university, I think it's fair to say. I was actually really struggling. I think I thought about changing courses, I thought about leaving the course quite a few times. And so we got to know each other, particularly when we did our company placements. So we both worked at Boots, and during that time got to kind of know each other a bit better. I think Helen came actually looking for me. I feel like you came to me.
I did. I came to you for some advice. I needed some help with a reflective portfolio, and Sarah had the best marks, so I basically just went and spoke to her to see if she could help me. So ask for help, everybody.
Nothing if not strategic in your friendships. So that's how we got to know each other, and then we both went our separate ways, but had similar-ish careers, working initially both in sales and then both went into marketing, working in big organisations like Britvic and GlaxoSmithKline, Capital One and Barclays. And then actually we did become friends. So, we sometimes overplay it, but we did actually then get on really well. And we didn't see each other that often because we never lived in the same place. You were travelling quite a lot with some of your jobs at BP, you were kind of all over the world. But every, 6 months or so, we would just meet up and always get on brilliantly.
Yeah, generally with afternoon tea. That was normally a part of our meeting.
At one point, we were really good at where to go for afternoon tea in London, because that's what our friendship was based on, was different afternoon teas.
Maybe at some point that will come back, but we
definitely do it now, do we?
do it now. But 2013, I started to work for Virgin, and Sarah was at Sainsbury's at the time, and it was pretty early on when I was at Virgin. We met up and we were just reflecting a little bit on what had happened since we had that moment at university with our careers. And we reflected a lot on the careers I think we thought we would have, and we talked about them being this predictable linear thing that we thought we would. I mean, we were ambitious, and we thought that was the career that we wanted, where we would go up and up and up in this sort of predictable fashion. And actually the careers that we hadn't reflected that, and Sarah drew this squiggle and was like, actually they've been more like this. And so we were like, oh yeah, it's been a squiggly career. And the more we talked about that and we identified with it, and the more we talked to other people about the squiggly career, the more we realised, there's something in this. Lots of people identify with this career that's got lots of movement and change in it, but whereas we were going, squiggly career is amazing, we're getting to meet all these different people and do these different roles in organisations, other people were saying, I find this quite overwhelming and I don't know how to do what you're doing, and I want to know what I'm good at and who can help me, and I want to know what I really value at work, but I don't know where to start. So I think we had that moment over some conversations and thinking there's something in this, and we are passionate about helping people, and it gave us an opportunity to work together in a way that we'd never done before.
Yeah, so I think we were really very much accidental entrepreneurs. At that time we were both working in really big organisations that we loved and that we continue to love, so we were never trying to kind of escape a corporate reality. And I think what was interesting at that time is a lot of the kind of help and advice and support for people sat in one of two camps. It was either really academic, which was interesting and often insightful, but sometimes quite far away from all of our day-to-day realities of being in work, or at that time TED Talks were really taking off, and there was a lot of really inspiring stuff that was telling you, to do what you love, love your work, those kind of things. But that felt, while kind of motivating in some ways, as well quite hard for people to kind of grasp onto and sort of think, well, what does that actually mean for me? So I think what we really wanted to do was something that was very grounded in reality. We always talk about being kind of boringly useful. I like the idea of being boringly useful. Actions that can make a difference tomorrow at work, next week at work. And so we just started running these evening workshops in our spare time. And when I think about it now, I think I don't really know how that even happened. So we set up as a business, as a limited company, only because we needed people to pay a little bit of money to come to the workshops to cover the cost of the room. So we weren't setting it with a grand vision of a business.
No.
It certainly wasn't we're going to create this side project that will emerge into a business. It was just let's do these workshops. We need some basic business stuff set up just to kind of make that work. And then we just started doing it, and I think through our network got enough people to turn up to them. Mm-hmm. And at that point, when I think now about what we do and how much more kind of nuanced it is and practiced it is, fundamentally, lots of the kind of things that we talk about are the same, and I think that's when we knew we'd got a good idea that people felt kind of work for them was actually helpful, because people were going back into their organisations, and then actually we had their organisations coming to talk to us about going in and working with them.
And I think then there was a period of time of us both working, and by a period of time, a good few years, of us working in organisations. So kind of for me, it was Virgin and Microsoft, and Sarah at Sainsbury's and Gravity Road, where we were working with organisations. We had children, so I've got 2 children, Sarah's got 1 little boy called Max, and we were doing all of that. We were studying so many different things at the same time, and that was a really fulfilling time, actually. Like, everything was rewarding, like everything that was happening to us. Not always easy, but I think what we were learning was that our community was building. About the same time, we also launched the podcast, and the podcast enabled us to reach more people with our tools, more people that worked in the organisations we were working with, more people that can come to our evening courses, and it really started to help us to think about, wow, we could take Amazing If and making work better for everyone to a much bigger audience with technology and tools and things like the book, which is now, I guess, part of our stage now. Now we've written the Squiggly Career. Our aim is very much to put all these tools that we've developed over the past 5-6 years into as many people's hands as possible, because we know that they work, and we know that they can help people to feel really confident in their career and take control of all of this squiggly list that we're now experiencing.
And so it's been about a year since Helen left her job at Microsoft. So Helen took like the big leap first. And started to run Amazing If full time as her main proper job. And funnily enough, that seemed like a really seamless transition, I think. It just sort of happened quite naturally and organically. I don't remember us having a really big chat about you doing this thing.
I remember the first day when I'd left Microsoft and I was at home, and I remember at 9 o'clock I think I opened my laptop and I was like, oh, what do I do now? And then I think I just got started, and by about 9:30, I think on that first day in about October last year, it all just kind of kept going, and it hasn't really stopped since then. But I do remember there was about half an hour of a moment of me going, ooh, different. This is different.
No meetings. And I have just, so it's October 2019 now, and I have just kind of made Amazing If the main part of my working week. So I still do some work with Gravity Road, the advertising agency that I was previously managing director for. And we both do kind of trustee, non-exec roles. And I think for us that's really important to have that kind of mix of things, partly because we're living the squiggly dream, but also I think we see that each of those different things all kind of add up to more learning, more insights for us that mean we're better at Amazing If. And so now we're at, I feel like, a really interesting tipping point. We've spent a lot of time over the last 6 months writing our first book, and writing a book is way more work than I think we'd appreciated. I mean, I knew it was going to be quite a lot of work, but I don't think I've ever done anything that has been so immersive and focused and taken just so much kind of determined time, effort. It's kind of the epitome of grit, I think. Writing a book, because it's got so many stages, and you think you just write it, but you write draft 1 and you think, oh, I'm sort of pretty much done now. And it's like, oh, you are so far from being done. And there's so much that comes with it in terms of design, and then also making sure that people actually know about it and that some people actually buy it. And so now that we've kind of got the book coming out, the podcast has now got to 200,000 listens, which is amazing. And again, I really subscribe to the thing of there is no such thing as overnight success. Those things sound amazing now, but that podcast, when we started it 2 years ago, probably had about 10 listeners. We wrote a really early version of this book actually 3 or 4 years ago that was probably half the size, and no one was interested in it apart from us. So we just wrote it for ourselves. And so I think we've now got to the point where we're really clear on our mission of making work better for everyone. It's the kind of fundamental core part of our week. and for the first time ever, we're actually working together properly.
I know.
So
It's taken a while. We're here.
So since university to here, we're now properly working together, and it's actually really new for us. I think the thing over the next year for us is actually running our own business. Neither of us have ever run a business before. We're not from a small kind of startup world. We're from kind of the big corporate world where we were actually, like, as we said, really happy. So we're entering kind of a whole new life stage, I think, of squiggliness, where we're learning lots of new skills, feeling uncomfortable and in our kind of stretch and scary zones relatively kind of commonly, I would say most weeks. So what are you most excited about over the next year, do you think?
I am most excited about getting out and talking to people about the book. I think that's I'm really excited about meeting people, talking to them, doing like different events with the book next year. That'll be very, very exciting. And I think podcast guests, I think I love that. I love talking to you, but I also love talking to all the different people that we get to meet on the podcast and hearing like squiggly stories and sharing all of that wisdom with people. That feels great. What about you?
I think I'm most excited about some of the stuff we're doing at the moment on growth mindset. I think growth mindset, the work that Carol Dweck has done on that has been around for a little while now, but I think organisations are only just starting to realise the opportunity, and I think we could be a big part of helping people with the kind of potential of that, seeing that in action like we've done with some other areas like strengths. And so it's something I want to read more about, learn more about, and really work out what does it mean for organisations in terms of the way that they recruit people, the way that they develop people, the way they help people navigate their careers. So that's quite a specific thing, but it's very on my mind at the moment, and I like to have something to really kind of get my teeth into and kind of deeply research. A bit different to you. Yeah. You're looking at me like you're absolutely mad.